Welcome back, Silver Bull fans. Welcome back to Silver Bull channel. You know, every now and again I like to do a controversial video that's out there just to stir things up a bit. This one will probably annoy the evolutionists and atheists who say, why are you bothering to talk about a fairy tale? Probably even also annoy people on the other end of the spectrum, some conservative Bible-believing Christians who believe in a word-for-word translation as if God dictated the Bible word for word to the writers. I believe in divine inspiration, but I often believe the writers were trying to explain things that God had shown them, and we're trying to use the best words they could use to describe what they were seeing. So this video is titled Noah's Ark, a little wooden boat, really. Now, our traditional image of Noah's Ark is this little wooden boat, this cutesy little children's storybook image. You get all the animals coming into this tiny little ship, and most people realise pretty quickly you're just not going to fit all those animals in that tiny wooden little boat. The traditional translation for this story comes from Genesis chapter 6. And we'll start at verse 13. And God said unto Noah, the end of all flesh is come before me, for the earth is filled with violence through them, and behold, I will destroy them with the earth. Make thee an ark of gopher wood. Rooms shalt thou make in the ark, and shalt pitch it within and without with pitch. And this is the fashion which thou shalt make it of. The length of the ark shall be 300 cubits, the breadth of it 50 cubits, and the height of it 30 cubits. That's a traditional translation, that's King James Version, and I would suggest it's very much got a bent to it of a 15th century mind or 1500s when King James Version was translated. I don't think it's been really true to the original Hebrew, and we'll have a look at that soon. So if you take the measurements, you end up with a life-size replica, and this was done by a Dutch man. This is in Holland or Netherlands there, and taking those measurements, you get a life-size replica that looks like this. You can see the little giraffe and elephant he's put up there, and you sort of get a problem of how you're going to keep all those animals in there being fed, watered, and all that for over a year. You know, it's pretty cramped zoo. It's a big boat, but yeah. You're still going to face problems. So let's have a look at the first word, which is gopher. Now, gopher is a word not otherwise known in Hebrew. Okay, it's the only place it appears in the Bible. In fact, it's the only place it appears at all in Hebrew. So it is in fact unable to be translated. So it could refer to something that we don't even know. Remember the grammar in Hebrews, they didn't have grammar as we know it, so you know, where you put commas in that can be a problem, but they didn't even have vowels. The vowels came in later. So the fact of the matter is it's translated by most people as gopher wood. I would argue that's a poor translation. In fact, it could refer to unknown material, more like a polycarbonate, a carbon fibre, metal alloy, or some sort of material that we more akin to know today. Certainly more stronger than just plain wood. Obviously, they put gopher with the word etz, and etz is translated as tree, wood, or timber. Can also be translated as planks, so the concept of lumber, or just the broader understand would be construction material. So here we get a, you know, it's made out of gopher wood, that's traditional translation, or the actual translation perhaps could be made out of a construction material, unknown construction material. That would probably be a better translation. The ark was made out of an unknown construction material. That would probably be truer to what Moses wrote down. And this whole set of verses, they just absolutely butcher in the translation. Kapir, it's the only place in the Bible where it's actually translated as pitch. Kapir actually is normally translated as atonement. Actually means to cover over. And so Noah was to cloak the ark, or to cover over the ark inside and out. And I've got to cover over or to cloak. And I'm going to go really out there and say, did Noah in fact have a cloaking mechanism for the ark? It would make sense. It would be more technologically advanced than we've got today. We don't have things that cloak. We're getting there. There are some things with a bending light and stuff like that to try and make things invisible. So the technology is almost there. We'll probably see it within our lifetime. Yes, this to cover over, kapur, to cloak. I'm wondering whether that's a better translation. That would make sense. Noah living in a violent age where people were murdering, thieving, all the rest of it, had to protect this ark for 120 years. And therefore, it would make sense if he'd built in a few safety mechanisms in regards to it. Next is the word tabar, which is translated as ark. And it's only used twice in the Bible, that word. Once for Noah's ark and once for Moses' basket. It's interesting that both vessels are vessels of salvation from death. So when we talk about ark, I'm not so sure we should be thinking of a boat straight up. We should be thinking of an object that saves. It's an object of salvation. Likewise, the word, and I'm probably butchering the Hebrew here, kani, is translated as rooms. Once again, this is the only time the KJV translates it as room. So it's translated once as room. And a better translation is, in fact, nest or cell. As Moses trying to describe here, an advanced vessel that has little cells for all the different animals, little nests, a automated device. So you've got to remember the purpose of this ark, or this vessel of salvation, was to protect from a worldwide global catastrophe. And I'm not going to go into evidence of global flood here and that. I just don't have the time. I believe there was a worldwide flood. I believe there's heaps of evidence around you to show there was a worldwide flood. It's interesting to note that wherever man has settled, the first thing he's had to do is drain swamps and stuff like that, no matter where he went in the world. The question is, would a wooden boat have survived an event that ripped apart continents and broke up the oceans of the deep, where actually the Bible says the foundations of the deep were broken up? So this cataclysmic worldwide event where the water canopy that had been protecting Earth comes crashing down, and the continents get ripped apart, and huge tidal waves that totally wiped out this hugely advanced civilization that was previously existed. And while the Bible doesn't go into it in much detail, we do have the global so-called flood myth in cultures all around the world, and we also have the Greek, the story of Atlantis, this hugely technologically advanced civilization that was destroyed by this flood. So even the Greeks remembered it and recorded it. So let's have a look at the size of the ark. This measurement we're given is the cubit, and a cubit is from the tip of a person's elbow to the tip of their middle finger. And so the traditional measurements are the ark was 450 feet long, 50 feet wide, and 45 feet high, or about 137 metres long, 22 metres wide, and 30 metres high. The size the Dutchman built in that picture I showed you earlier. But my argument is, what if the cubit being referred to was in relation to a much bigger human being? In fact, what if it was in relation to a giant? What if Moses wasn't trying to give a cubit in the understanding as he knew it, as in a traditional Hebrew or Egyptian cubit, but he was merely trying to say it was 300 cubits, as in the real cubit of those people, i.e. the length of their hand to their elbow. That would make a very different measurement, because the Bible talks about there being giants in the land, talks about Nephilim, these huge people, and even some ancient cultures sort of reflect this view. This is the Sumerians, and here we have on the right here a picture of Nimrod holding a lion. Now that's not a baby cub. You can tell it's not a baby cub because it has a mane around it. That's an adult lion that he's holding under his arm like a kitty cat. Alright? This man is a giant. I believe Nimrod, and it's only mentioned briefly in the Bible, a few verses about Nimrod and who he was. He was the foundation of all the mystery religions, and many of the occult societies we have today trace their roots all the way back to Nimrod. He set himself up against God. He was a giant of a man. He was called a mighty hunter. And he was after the flood. After the flood, we get this rapid decrease in age, this rapid decrease in the size of human beings, and they end up being 70 years old. Instead of pre-flood, where they lived over 900 years old. So a huge different change. So humans back then were a lot larger, hugely larger. An example that this is the case was a pre-flood environment consisted of numerous mega creatures, and even evolutionists admit to the fossil record chain animals that are impossible in today's atmosphere. You know, dragonflies with wingspans of 70 centimetres and other megafauna. I think most people would be glad we don't have insects that big now. They freak out about a little spider or a cockroach. God knows what they would do with a dragonfly half a metre wide. That would be freaky. These things can't exist today because our atmosphere can't support it. Insects can't get that big because they just can't get enough oxygen into their body to grow that size. Obviously, the pre-flood environment was very different, likely to be of high oxygen, low radiation due to the water canopy, and a dense, healthy atmosphere. So the creatures were bigger, people were bigger. And my argument, if you've got men who were at least 3 times bigger, 18 feet tall, maybe even taller, the ark was 3 times bigger as well. So you're looking for a vessel at least 500 metres long, 60 metres wide, and 40 metres high. Pretty impossible through physics to be made out of wood, or wood alone. Example, I mean, that we're talking about then, you know, a vessel bigger than anything we have today. So you've got like the Knock Nevis, or the Sea-Wise Giant, was an oil tanker, and it was 458 metres long. Okay, so these are some of the ships that we have today and their sizes. And these are considered huge ships. I'm suggesting Noah's Ark was even bigger than this. Okay, so I'm suggesting something more like this. This comes from the film, once again, 2012, bit of a dud of a film, but I like the concept of their ark there. You know, this vessel of salvation. To me, the ark probably looks something more like that, and of that size. Okay. To me, the ark was a technologically sophisticated vessel. As such, it would have required a source of power, and it possibly had a cloaking device. As I've said, that word kapar means to cover over, which isn't that far to go from to cover over to cloak. You've got your little door there. You can see how it would have been a lot harder to try to storm a vessel of that construction. Hence why it took 120 years to build. Noah had to build something that not only had a source of power, it was probably automated. That would have saved a lot of having to feed all the animals if it was just all automated. The sewage was automatically looked after. You know, the cells, as it were, they were called, or these nests, automatically cleaned themselves, and you had a automated a disposal system. That would make sense. Certainly a lot less work for him and his sons to do. All they'd have to do then is be more engineers, making sure everything was working all right. not having to wear themselves out feeding all these animals, which would have been an impossibility. Can we find the Ark, if it still even exists? It landed, now people say Mount Ararat, that's not what the text says. It says it landed in the mountains of Aratu, which is Asia Minor. The ancient kingdom of Aratu was well north of Israel, near the kingdom of the Hittites, and it's in Asia Minor, so you're talking about Turkey, Armenia, and some people even argue Iran, the mountains there. It could be possibly, it probably is in fact buried, either through geological action or perhaps Noah wanted to hide it, and it may even still be cloaked. My suggestion to find the Ark, you would be looking for a power source, most likely nuclear, possibly a 4M reactor. So you should be looking for emitted gamma rays and radiation. That's what you should be looking for. And it could be hidden, and you should be looking for something hugely technologically advanced, not just a hunk of wood tar sealed. You're looking for an object that, even if located today, would blow our minds in regards to the technology it contains. We'd probably learn a thing or two if we found the Ark, if it still exists. And just, so I'm talking about a ship that is the biggest ship that was ever built. And I don't even like the term ship. I prefer the term vessel. All right, vessel of salvation. That's essentially what the text is saying. There is on the drawing boards concept a ship called Freedom, which will be home to 50,000 residents, 15,000 employees, and 20,000 day guests, and that's supposed to be over a kilometre long. So that's a massive ship, supposedly just for the elites of the world to boat around to the nicest climates, have a forever summer, and you can see they even land the planes on the deck. So that's some guy's concept, and he wants to bring that into reality. Good luck to him. That'd be an interesting ship to see. That's my view on the Ark. Put your comments below. Feel free to share this video. I originally was just going to put some advertising on it, because I've used so many copyrighted images and that. I've just used it for educational purposes. So I have no copyright to any of the images. Like 2012 will be copyrighted to that film and various things. So this is for educational purposes and discussion, general discussion. So feel free to have a look at it. That's the end of the show, Silver Bull fans. I hope you enjoyed it, and put in your own views below and have a discussion. But don't ask me to personally argue out my points, because I'm not going to do it. If you're interested, I'll do another video on the Tower of Babel and why I believe it was a Stargate. You can put that in the comments if you'd like more views on that. You can also do a video on Herodotus and Daniel, the book of Daniel, where they agree with each other, where there's similarities between the two, and proof that the book of Daniel was dealing with real events. That's the end of it today. Silver Bull channel out, and God bless you all.